Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Thank you for joining this GP Strategies webinar, where we'll explore best practices and innovative insights to help you and your organization improve performance.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's GP Strategies webinar. My name is Kayla Ross. I'm a marketing manager for GP Strategies, and I am happy to be your host for today's event. If you've joined us before, we are very glad to have you back, and if this is your first session with us, well, a big welcome goes out to you. We have a great discussion planned today. John Bastian has joined us to talk about how to improve employee experience with SuccessFactors Onboarding 2.0. So John, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I will go ahead and start turning things over to you.
Thank you so very much, Kayla. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is John Bastian. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session on, again, improving employee experience with SuccessFactors Onboarding 2.0. Very briefly, first of all, I'm calling you from the seaside town of Dennisport, Cape Cod in Massachusetts. So it's actually a beach day. There's not been all that many of them this year, but today is one. So it doesn't mean much to me as I sit here at my computer, but it is. In any case, I hope the weather is as nice as it is here where you are. So I wanted to very quickly, guys, by means of introduction, I really, and I guess I'll go through the agenda first. This is not going to be a feature comparison or really a deep dive into the functionality of Onboarding 2.0. I'm going to be talking about how the solution first of all came to be, right? Why SuccessFactors has made the investment in the product, but I'm going to tie the product back to each one of the areas, the topics, sort of the trends that we want to discuss today. And these are trends that SAP put forward in an article not that long ago. It's still available out there for consumption on their website. But I wanted to kind of bring these forward and talk about them a little bit more specifically and try to position the product, because at the end of the day, the functionality is great, but what we really want to talk about is why. What can we achieve, right? What are our issues? What are our challenges? What do we face out there today relevant to the onboarding process, the onboarding function, if you will, and how does this product help address that? So that's kind of where the meat of the session is going to be, but we will position the product and position it against these trends and these issues as we go along. So that's kind of going to be how we go. We'll cover each one of these topics, starting with why onboarding is so critical, and we'll run through the topics, and then we'll leave time for sure at the end for some questions and discussion, as Kayla said. If at any point along the way, guys, my presentation goes wonky, my audio goes wonky, just throw up a flare, right? There's no need to be polite. I don't want to waste anyone's time, and we'll get back on track and we'll keep things moving. Very quickly, all right? Again, my name is John Bastian. I'm a lead analyst here at GP Strategies. I work in the Human Capital Technologies group. I focus specifically on the three modules of recruiting management, the applicant tracking system, recruiting marketing or career site builder, the externally facing, and now I guess internally facing, career site portion of the solution, as well as onboarding 1.0 and 2.0, the two versions. What I really want you to know about me, besides the fact that this picture is horribly outdated and I'm a lot older than that, so I'm not trying to get one over on anybody. I need a new picture. I feel shameful even putting that up there. But what I really want you to know, guys, is that I am a old sailor that now makes boats, right? I used to be a recruiter for quite a number of years. Like I said, I'm much older than that picture would have you believe. And I started the first 10 years of my career filling jobs in various roles. And I went into business process consulting, and from there became kind of a product manager, and then made the full leap to the dark side of technology. And I've been responsible for technical solution architecture and implementation probably the last 12 years in the SuccessFactors space. So I've been doing this a while. It'll become painfully clear, guys, soon that I'm not a true technologist, right? But what I am is, I think, a nice gap between the function and the technology. And so you'll see me approach this today as I approach all of my sessions as well as my work from a process standpoint. Again, what are you trying to achieve? What are your key drivers, right? What are your business goals? And then how can the available functionality technology, right, help you address those successfully? So that's where we're trying to come from. That's all I want you to know about me. Hopefully that helps you with questions I can maybe answer, right? It's not just about the bits and the bytes. If you're trying to understand relevance, if you want to understand, well, what can I do about this? Put them out there. I may not have the answers, but I will understand the context of the question, all right? So let's spend a few minutes just trying to position onboarding as an activity in the corporate structure, the organizational structure, and also onboarding 2.0, this new version of onboarding that SuccessFactors has put out there. First of all, why is onboarding so critical? Sorry, guys, I had the cell phone muted, but I never thought that my landline would ring, because it never does. But now, of course, it has. All right, thank you. Sorry. So why is onboarding so important? Well, if you think about it, onboarding really for a long, long time, right? And for a lot of organizations even today, it's not only viewed, and you can see down the left-hand nav there, it's not only viewed as a day one activity, it's viewed as a very administrative activity. Come in and fill in your new hire paperwork packet. We need to get you into the system. We need to process you, right, like you're a piece of bologna. And there are certainly things that need to be done. I mean, my whole life, every day, my work life is focused on helping companies do this, right, faster, easier, less expensively, more accurately, all of these things. So yes, that needs to happen, right? But there are other aspects, right, of onboarding, and even a way that you can look at sort of what could be called the administrative aspect of onboarding in a strategic way. And that's really, really important. One of the things you can see, again, the second bullet there, is that often the socialization aspects are often neglected in the onboarding program, right? Well, why is that important? Well, as we're going to see, and as you can see on the slide here, there are a number of things going on and that have been going on in the labor market and in the employment model, if you will, that make that more important than ever. And I think obviously, right, all of us now with the pandemic and everything that has brought to bear with all of our lives and all aspects of our lives, realize, right, that when you're not properly socialized, there are issues, right? We've all experienced them, and we're seeing them daily across the country. So, that's something I think that more and more companies are starting to look at. The other thing is that there are oftentimes really inconsistent onboarding experiences, and that can be within the same type of employee, right, where one full-time employee sort of has this process, and another one, same full-time employee, a different kind of area or for a different, duration of time or what have you, as a different one. It can also mean different types of workers are supported to a lesser or greater degree, right, or provided with more efficiency or less, right? So trying to set a high bar and meet it for any type of worker that we're able to process, and also, right, make sure that we don't have to leave big pieces of the pie out. Many times when I go into an organization and I ask them about current state of onboarding, they say, well, first of all, the scope of it is 71% of our employees, because the other 29, we really can't get it to work because they're this or they're that, so we don't really have anything to do with them. And that really leads to the next and final bullet here, guys, which is oftentimes the real lack of ability to at least accurately measure the effectiveness. I have to say, when I ask again about current state in a lot of these kind of scope and discovery sessions that we start projects in, I hear a lot of, well, we really feel that, or, we get the idea that. I don't hear a lot of facts. I don't hear a lot of data points. And even if they have them, the difficulty is because of that third bullet above, because there's usually a healthy percentage of the employee population, the worker population, that's not within scope of at least one program, right? Sometimes I see 2 or 3 in place. Sometimes half is paper, half is, this or whatever. They have these big blind spots, right? And as we'll talk about, right, data and analytics, guys, they're more important than ever. They've always been important, but now we can really kind of get at them more. They can do more for us than ever with the technology that is available, and we can't improve what we can't understand and measure accurately, right? And then also remeasure and analyze post-change, right? So the final thing here, so that those are things that need to be thought of, but I want to just drive the point home that I think is really lost oftentimes in the onboarding realm, and that is the perception of the new hire, right? Think about the first couple of days and weeks the last time you changed companies or even just positions within a company. It's a bit of a scary time. You're wondering if you've made the right decision, or at least you're wondering what things are going to be like. And one thing that really provides comfort is contact and resources and what you perceive to be an immediate investment in you. And I know it sounds a little warm and fuzzy, guys, but think about it. You get the initial letter from your new boss. They have a pre-day one meeting with you. You've got access to the system that you're going to use at your job pre-day one, and a really kind of slick interface to do some of these just, god-awful, mundane paperwork tasks. But look, they've made it as easy for me as they can. wow, they're investing in me right off the gate. And I bet that this technology, since they've already told me it's going to be the same that I kind of do a lot of my job with, if this looks like this, my whole job should be kind of supported with tools like this. This is awesome. Okay, that's what we're looking for. And oftentimes, guys, as you can imagine, that's not the case. I don't get a computer for 2 weeks. My parking thing doesn't work. My badge didn't come yet, right? They weren't ready for me here. Or I never got the email. Or, oh my God, I've put my name in 47 times so far and I'm on page 5. What's it going to be like if I need a pen at this company? Oh, Lord, how many people are going to need to ask what I'm going to have to do? So it works both ways. So, all right, I wanted to spend a little bit of extra time on this slide to kind of cue things up. And all of these facts, guys, are the very driving reasons why SuccessFactors has made the significant investment in Onboarding 2.0. They've brought the product into the platform completely, right? The previous version is not only a bit of a bolt-on, it's gotten better over time, but it started as a pure bolt-on, right? Somebody else's code that was attached and synced, if you will, to the rest of the instance, right? That has been fading over time, but there are still hard lines between one kind of back end for onboarding and one back end for everything else for Onboarding 1.0. For 2.0, it is fully integrated into the platform. And that fact alone, plus expanded functionality, is going to let us address this function in a much more strategic way. And so through the context of these 6 kind of trends, we'll now kind of explore how it can address successfully some of the challenges that we see out there relevant to onboarding today. So hopefully I positioned that. The first one I want to talk about here, all right, and when I use the word external, or I should say SAP uses the word external since it was their trend, they're not talking about where they are, they're talking about what they are, all right? We'll get to where they are in the next slide. But what they are, okay, are freelance workers, contractors. Maybe they through a third-party company, maybe they're independent, right? And as you see from the information there on the left-hand side of the slide, this is a rapidly expanding percentage of the population. And more companies are employing, right, more and more of this type of labor. And I would say, again, to bring things into current conditions, with this sort of, wow, things are what they are, but who knows what they'll be tomorrow or next week or next month, let alone next quarter, I think a just-in-time hiring model is going to be a little bit more highly entrenched than it has been even to date, right? It's interesting. In my world anyway, my take on coronavirus is that it is speeding up trends that were already in motion, right? And this is one of them, in my opinion, because I may not be sure that gig's going to hold up if things go sideways, but I'll bring the contractor in to start, and let's see how that goes. They're a little bit more flexible. So what are the issues, right, that are involved? Well, like I said, right, a lot of time, right, these are workers that don't even fall under the umbrella of the onboarding solution, right, because, well, we don't pay them directly, or they're not on our benefit system and they would have to route through this, or, you know, we can't have them having access to this other thing. They're working for us, but they're a different type of worker and they need a different type of experience. And oftentimes, right, you're just not able to do that effectively based upon where they're coming from and kind of what that model is. So the first thing is, if you look at kind of the gray, the light gray in the bottom left-hand quadrant there by the image, different workflows for different external workers, right, based on external worker type. So not only can you have a flow that is specific to the needs and requirements for contractors, you could have it for technical contractors versus non. You could have them for the one a big account you've got with Robert Half for all your seasonal accounting stuff. You could have a process for them because it's going to be very skinny down because Robert Half has already cleared a bunch of those hurdles, right? You can have as many as you want. And what that allows you to do as an organization is the top green box, to give you, by pulling all of your workforce under that umbrella with that expanded flexibility that 2.0 offers, right? Allowing you to tap into really whatever you want to and not anything that you don't, right, by process type. You can really get that complete visibility. And you can understand, not only can you support your entire workforce effectively, you can measure and analyze and improve that experience for your entire workforce effectively as well, right? The ability to pull more, if not all of your workforce under that umbrella also, right, leads to what you see there in the top gray box, the darker gray, the increased compliance tracking. How do you know right, that everybody's got their documentation. If you're doing 30% of them on paper, that makes that a nightmare. You're still chasing around all sorts of missing forms. And it's one thing if you're talking about like a freelance writer, like oftentimes you can have them start writing the blog or the new spec sheet or whatever before everything comes in. But what if you're in a highly regulated industry? What if the thing that's missing is the safety cert and that person can't run that equipment for you yet and you're going to pay them and they're out there at the site costing you hard-earned dollars every hour that they're standing there, but they can't work yet because somebody lost the form or it never got signed or no one knows what happened to it, right? So the more people you can pull in, right, the less woes you're going to suffer in that area. And then lastly, you're able to kind of pull them in technically and tie them off with your permanent employees. There isn't this huge sort of gap, right? You can get them integrated and you can have them start plugging into people. For an example, you can create kind of relationships now between existing employees and these newly hired employees in 2.0 and kind of connect them, right, in a sort of a relevant network, if you will, like a team, if you will. And again, it helps, the technical solution helps you physically and mentally and culturally integrate those new employees, particularly those that, don't even fall under your masthead, right, specifically. So again, the flexibility and the true integration of the 2.0 version with the platform really allows you. The big message here, guys, is it's going to hopefully overcome the challenges that I so often see where a certain pretty sizable percentage of that workforce population needs to be left out of at least the technical onboarding solution and process, right? So let's talk about the next trend. Like I said, I wanted to kind of to get these two out of the way because they can be confused. This now is where I'm talking about, or SAP, again, I'm trying to keep stealing their plagiarizing here. SAP is talking about where they are, okay? And you see this increased diversity of working arrangements. Everybody's reading that going, yeah, tell me, brother, right? We've all going through this right now. I'm lucky. I've been doing my work remotely for a long time, but I've watched all my clients like, holy cow, like, where is my office? The kids, the dog, the hamster, the air conditioning, whatever. This is crazy. You can see with more than 2/3 of people around the world now working remotely, and that doesn't seem to be going to be lessening anytime soon, right? That's all I'll say about current conditions. We are all getting that now. What is the real thing? And this is what I'm saying, this is the pandemic, one of the few positives, right, is I think that for this conversation, you people now at a human level all understand this, right? If we don't have this social interaction, if we don't have this kind of engagement and connection with people, let alone employees, right, there are real consequences. I will say, like I said, I've been working virtually for a long time now, and I've always been amazed. Several of the organizations, including GP, that I've worked for, they work diligently knowing that we're virtual to connect us, and it is important, and they put the work in, and it makes a difference. Other companies that have not done that as effectively, I have understood what that does to you as a worker, and it's not a good thing, right? So how does 2.0 specifically, right, kind of help you create this welcoming environment, and that an environment where a person, to be honest, guys, to put it in a very myopic and selfish way, the better job you do of this, the faster and harder they can start working for you. The more comfortable they feel, right, to share ideas, the more comfortable they feel to kind of to go for it, to put themselves out of their comfort zone and know that it's kind of a, as we say, like, a no judgment zone, a no fear, a place of safety. That's what you're going to get their best work. So first off, when you think about how onboarding has been traditionally done shoulder to shoulder, when you're no longer shoulder to shoulder, you need to replace the comfort of being able to say to the person next to you, hey, I don't understand this question. Hey, what do I need to check this off, or is that just for these people, or whatever? All right? They're not going to be there with you. So you need to make sure that you really work into the process that support custom help text, right? Checklists, right? And the integration of 2.0, guys, all the tools, the to-dos, the reminders, the notifications, these are all things that you guys are probably familiar with from other modules. They're now all available in onboarding. Whereas, like I said before in 1.0, which most of my customers, if not all, are still on, right? That's a whole separate world, and it doesn't provide very meaningful stuff. Plus, you've already are using parts of the system to try to engage the new employee in other ways, right? Get them off the employee portal of 1.0 and onto the new employee portal, which is the pre-day one experience, is the homepage. The same one that you guys log into when you log into SuccessFactors. That's what they'll see with specific per customer, per use case, day one access to things like guides, tutorials, right? Required tasks, meetings, links, right? Messages, people, all things that give them support going through this process like they were there on site. Secondly, make sure they don't feel like any less of an employee than anybody that's on location. This is particularly important, like in the case of companies like GP, where there is a certain percentage of population that goes to an office every day together, and a certain portion of us that do not and are dispersed all across the states and the world. You want to make sure that both groups feel the same, right? That they get the same level of care, right? And technology and support, right? So 2.0 again can help level that playing field with the tools that I was mentioning that really apply to the first as well. And again, this connection, right? I talked about the ability because of the true integrated nature now, and really a focus on creating initial connections with people, right? You don't have to choose one, right? One can kind of be maybe the overall mentor, but there can be a person that's really strong in this area, or a person on the project team for the project you're going to be rolling them into, whatever it is, right? You can really start to use the technology to break down those initial kind of walls and get these people together and get them working together sooner than they probably normally would, and in a much more engaged way as well, right? A kind of a human way, right? So again, is this trend now? Obviously the pandemic has made this a big issue, but I think a lot of organizations are going to rethink their workforce and its location and offer some flexibility long after the pandemic is over. That's been coming for some time now, in my opinion. So the next trend that SAP brought forward are changing organizational structures. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this one, but I do want to recognize it. I think all of us realize, both when we're servicing the organization as well as when we're navigating it ourselves, there are very few places today where you work or are employed that are truly 100% hierarchical, right? We've got sort of the top, and then a level of 5 that cascades to a level of 15, and on down we go, and everybody kind of rolls up like little Russian nesting dolls, stacking dolls, right? That's rare. Even if we have that in place, which you see less and less, the true matrix extent of work is undeniable, right? Depending upon what I'm doing, guys, I'm responsible to probably 5 or 6 different masters inside a given day here at GP. I have one boss, right? But I'm responsible to a lot of individuals, and there are a lot of individuals that are quote unquote managing me as a resource that need to be able to do certain things with me. And whether I'm coming into the company completely cold, right, from the outside, or, right, and this is a really important point here, guys, one of the constantly and consistently underserved use cases in onboarding is changing roles within the company. Even organizations that do a pretty bang-up job with people coming in from the outside, for some reason they tend to underthink the value of a really engaging and meaningful experience for their employees. They figure they're already all set. But if I'm taking on a completely new role, just because I work for ABC Company and I'm staying there, doesn't make me feel completely confident in that new role out of the gate. This may be a couple of jumps up the ladder. This may be a completely new focus for me functionally, or at least a big, healthy new spin on it. Or what have you. So, making sure that they can also feel comfortable and get up to speed as quickly as possible. Again, the myopic, selfish goal here for us as employing companies is making them productive contributors as quickly as we possibly can, whether as a new employee or a new member of a new group, inside the organization. So, how does onboarding, do this? Well, the first is the fact, and again, I keep going back to this, guys, but this is the major win here. The rest of the platform uses, right, the relationships that we have set up, and typically that is the same. These matrices of responsibilities are the same across the different functions that we have interaction, right? Meaning that that there are different things that we're going to have to do with different people that we're responsible to, and so now, having access to those relationships that we've already configured to support the rest of the platform as part of 2.0, we can leverage them. And the other big one is, again, onboarding 2.0 and any module, right, in the suite really is much more powerful in a truly integrated way, whether that be with other modules, certainly with the back end of, SAP on-prem through the hybrid model, or, EC, kind of the future direction. or current, state for a lot of customers. But also, if you think about the other modules specifically, right? So what about PM and GM? What if when you are coming in either as a new employee or a new employee to an existing employee to a new role, you could, as part of the onboarding process, coming right out the back end, right, based upon dynamic criteria and logic and rules, be presented right with with the actual learning plan that has been made available to you and the resources to support you in the LMS to get you going. I mean, that's going to feel, really good. Somebody close to me in my life is taking on a new teaching position at a new school this year, right? Great time to be changing jobs and doing that one, right? High school English teacher. She had not received anything for about 3.5 weeks from this new school, and it was really bumming her out. She was really concerned that she was just going to be on her own. She's coming from a Catholic high school. This one is not. It's different. She's trying to figure it all out. It's actually a technical school, kind of a different spin on it as an English teacher. And then she said to me just a couple of days ago, "Hey, John, this is awesome. I just got this huge email from them. It's got all these links, a letter from the curriculum director, all these things that I can look at, examples of class, outlines, all these things. This is great. I thought I was on my own. I was so stressed. This is great." Right? This is what I'm talking about here, guys. Right? That based upon being able to leverage these matrices, we can tell, oh, you're going from here where you would need this to here where you would need this. Okay. And we can just keep it up for you, right, in terms of your goal creation and management. Hey, look, now that you're doing this job, this is what we're going to be, kind of measuring you on, so everybody's in alignment. If they're confused by that, at least they can know right out of the gate, and we can get in alignment before they're in the role very long and get sour. And we can also show them, look, and here's the LMS plan, right? Here's the resources that we've already invested and made in you to make sure that you can, effectively, manage successfully to those goals that we've set. All right. So, talk about the next trend. This one, I think, again, this is what I used to try to not get people to dismiss as the warm and fuzzy. One of the few favors that the pandemic is doing for me is, at least in this presentation, again, I think that this message is easier to drive home than ever. And again, it's, we're talking a lot about, remote workers, and at least my position is that we're going to have a healthy percentage of remote workers going forward, right, for until foreseeable future. It makes collaboration more challenging. Certainly not impossible. I'm doing it, like I said, I think effectively for a long time. But what can be, like I said, challenging is to make sure that they are that you're doing it as well as you could if they were all together. We all, even now, I think, say, wow, I understand this whole virus and stuff, and most of these things are fine virtually, but boy, that session, I wished I'd been in the room, right? I wanted to see their faces. I wanted to bring the energy. I wanted to feel theirs, whatever it was, okay? And when that really just can't be done, right, just because of how you've got you've got the best workers in the country, that means they've got to be all over the place, right? You need some glue, right? And I know, again, but, we talk about, so is it really that important that they're in a good? Yeah, think about yourself. When do you do your best work, right? When you're feeling good, right, or feeling bad? When you feel comfortable at your company, or you think that maybe you're out of the loop, or you're not in alignment, right? Or what if you simply feel like you have no idea what the company's up to, or they have no idea what you're up to and could care less? Like, do they even know? Do they know I'm alive? Right? At whatever level, you can have a great connection with your team, but does anybody else know what I'm doing? Right? So how does onboarding do that? You can see here, guys, that it's really trying to set a cultural tone. And I think, again, this is more relevant than ever. People need to come back to work. That doesn't mean that it's just like it always has been. I think one of the cultural things that I'm seeing requests for in my queue, right? Because not only do we do business process consulting work in my group and technical solution architecture and implementation, we do long-term support and optimization of those solutions and processes. And a lot of people now obviously want to put out the message to the labor market. This is what we're doing for our workforce. This is our position. This is our position to our customers, right? These are our values, especially in these kinds of times, right? Some of it's marketing, but some of it is really trying to say, hey, look, this is what's expected of you. Here's our take on things. It's a little, there's a range, right, to how people are reacting. But make sure, like you see in that bottom box, make sure they can align them. And I think that if you do a really good job with it, sometimes, some even people at the onboarding process make, you know what, I may have not made the right decision here, right? You guys are, I'm looking at all this, and maybe this isn't the right place for me. That's probably a good thing, guys, right? But for everybody else, again, like, okay, yeah, I'm with that. Yep, that makes sense to me. And wow, they have gone out of their way to make sure that, they know I'm not here, but I know I'm not alone. And I also know exactly who to ask about what, and I don't have to feel that that's an issue. I know I'm not bothering anyone. They've made the information clear to me. They've made it available to me. Maybe I don't even have to ask, but I also know that if I do need to, I can, and here's how, and here's who. That sounds basic, but again, think about your last experience, good or bad, when you were coming in the door, right? And how you felt in both use cases. So I think this can't be overstated, particularly now. This is really interesting, guys. Treating employees as consumers. I did, a lot of work in active recruiting, and then I worked in salaried recruiting both in third party and as a corporate recruiting person. But before I ever got involved in technology. And one of the things that I did is I shifted from the salaried, actually it started off in executive retained search at the very senior level. I actually shifted into hourly recruiting. And my customers were like, large convenience store chains, gas station chains, small but large box retail, things like that. And boy, I really skinned my knees and elbows and chin for quite a while because I made a lot of assumptions that were wrong about the two different models. In any case, done that a lot about a lot of things. The point of this anecdote is that what I learned from that hourly time is that my hourly customers, like a big restaurant chain, would be like, listen, John, they were the ones that kind of were out in front on UI and experience and ease of application, right? And what they would say is, it's two things, John. It's not only just that, we're paying them X dollars per hour. They could get another job very similar to it across the street, so we can't put up any barriers to their process. But just as important, John, and maybe even more so, they may not be good enough to work here, but boy, are they good enough to eat in our restaurant. They're good enough to shop in our store. They're good enough to come see a film in our theater. And we want to make sure that they don't come away with a bad taste in their mouth of us as an organization, because when they try to look for or apply for a job, it was just nightmarish. And that's true, right, as in how the onboarding process goes as well. And then again, all right, thinking about what we're going to get back from our investment that we're making in the new employee. This is something that I think that we tend to try to sweep under the rug. A lot of these things are, right? It's all front and center for us when we're on one side of the coin. But then when we're on the other side of the coin, where we're already in the company, we tend to kind of underplay this. But think about it, right? The level of technology, the UI, the mapping of data, right? So my name that I typed in way back when I first created my profile, I've never had to type it in again. Same with my work experience. Same with what I entered on my application. Data I've only had to enter once. Not one time have I had to put a piece of redundant information in there. And look at the fact that I'm already into this system. And look at what's been set up. Oh, look, I can do this on my phone. And look, it works right. Oh, look, they have e-sig, right? And oh, look, when I first get in here, look what I'm going to have, right? And the hiring manager, if you look down in the bottom blue, they're on their side going, wow, look at this. I'm a new manager here, and look, when I have to bring somebody in, I can do all this stuff from my phone too. And look at the reports that I have right here on this dashboard. And look how I can dive in deeper, right? Look at the fact that I don't have to worry about making a mistake because I've got a dynamic checklist based upon use case that takes me through exactly what I need to do for every new employee and whether I've done it or not and when it's due and all of these things, all right? So on both sides, don't underestimate the perception, both good and bad, that is created about your organization based upon these experiences. I tell consumer-focused clients all the time, if for no other reason than this, fix your application process, right? Maybe those people that truly need a job will suffer through, but you're weeding out a lot of good quality applicants that are like, I'm not going to mess with this. I can get a job anywhere. Those are the people you want to talk to, right? But you're also potentially doing damage to yourself as a brand. because there's not some huge wall of steel between your employment brand and your consumer-facing brand. They look at you and be like, wow, I think there was a good company. Can you believe that so-and-so, a company that does X and Y, their stuff looks like this? Yikes. Or they don't even have one? What? Submit resume to this email address? What? Right? Or that they're mailing me a packet? I'm going to be a systems analyst for this company. They're mailing me a paper packet with my parchment and quill, right? That really. And the same with the new managers, either those that get promoted to that level of the company or those that, are coming in from the outside as managers. They're looking very, quickly to see what level of support am I going to have here? Wow, not much. Oh boy, great. Wow. Wonder if I made the right move. Or, okay, look at this. Wow, yeah. Right? And they're providing me with this. I've got the technical tools. I've got the things I need. And oh, by the way, it's all integrated with the other places I go. It's not another password, not another login, not another training session, not another vendor, right? Everything's integrated. And oh, look, I can leverage the information from one part of the experience to another part of the experience in the employee life cycle. Awesome, right? So don't underplay that, right? The reaction to your initial investment is a powerful and a lasting one. And the final kind of trend I wanted to get into and hunker down on here a little bit is this notion that data and analytics are more important than ever. I could have that tattooed on my chest. I probably should do that because that's always true, right? And I'm a big believer, right? The phrase, in God we trust, all else must bring data, right? So that's the thing. When obviously, guys, all of us feel better when we're making a decision about what to do in any arena, work or personal or wherever in our lives, when we have data, right, to back that decision up. What should we do? Well, what happens when we do X? I don't know. Well, then we're going to have to guess. But if you say, well, when we kind of do it this way, this is what happens. And so based on that, let's look at maybe doing it that way and see what happens, right? If you can do that and you don't have to wait 4 months to get your report request back out the other side of the reporting team's queue, and you don't have to wonder where that, the data would come from or whatever it is, or you don't have these big blind spots where, yeah, we can trend it for 65% of the company, but that's about it, or all of Europe is out, or all of EMEA is out, or whatever it's going to be, or only these states, or whatever it's going to be, or up until this point, right in the process, then we can't. Or it kind of varies, or whatever it's going to be. If you can't measure it effectively, and part of effective, along with accurate, is agilely, right? Like I said, if it takes you so long to analyze that you can't move on your analysis, you're in a perpetual state of chasing your tail, right? Because the time you're reacting to something, that thing's gone and something else is there. So, off my soapbox for a second and talk about how does Onboarding 2.0 and really not only just in and of itself, but the fact that it's been pulled into the platform, how does it support this? Well, all of the reporting tools, and I will say of all the areas, and SAP has mashed the pedal to the floor, right, since they acquired SuccessFactors. I mean, new functionality has come out at such a faster rate. The product and solution has progressed at such a faster clip since the acquisition. I can't even tell you, right? It has become a major part of my job is just to stay up with not only my modules, but how they all interact with EC, how they all interact with SAP, and how they all interact with each other, and just all the new functionality that continues to roll along, right? One of the major areas of focus since the acquisition has been in this top area of data and analytics. The reporting tools, right? The standard reports, the ad hoc reports, the dashboards, the audit reports, they have all, right, become more client-friendly, more powerful. There are more versions, and the scope of data that can be analyzed with one tool has continued to increase to the point where now, right, and I was noticing on the intro slide, Mike Hoekstra's presentation on people analytics was up there. I highly recommend that. Mike's one of the few experts out there on a relatively new tool and a great guy to boot and a good presenter. But that really now you can look at anything. If it's in the suite, you can look at it, and you can bring in other data, right? So now we've got the ability to bring in, right, sort of business data, right, financial data, but performance data, along with kind of human capital management type data, across all of the modules, cross module reporting, And that's where we're starting to really get to. I've always said, guys, a lot of people can tell you where they get their hires from, right? Where they get their views from, where the applications come from, that kind of stuff. What I want to be able to tell my clients is, where do you get your long-standing, right, high-performing employees from? And what happened to them on the way in? What's happened to them since they came in? Why did they go so right? Right? Let's just keep wash, rinse, repeating that. If we can figure out that secret recipe, let's just cook that up every day and make a mint. Right? So the fact that 2.0 is pulled into the suite, it brings all of those reporting tools to bear, including people analytics, right? And the other thing, right, is not only can you then measure effectively and agilely, you've got to be able to do something about it. This is where Career Site Builder came from, okay? Career Site Builder, which is the customer administrable, if that's even a word, version of recruiting marketing, the external, the kind of the traditionally externally facing website career site solution. The reason a Career Site Builder came about is it previous to that, all of the changes and the initial build technically were done by SuccessFactors, right? They held workshops. I did it for many years, and we took requirements and we put it into the dev queue, and it went into the dev queue. And when you wanted to change something, it went into a different queue, but it still went into a queue. Oftentimes, because of just, resource availability, you couldn't get your change in time to react to what you were trying to react to. My competitor is floundering. My competitor is having a layoff. We just got a big new piece of business. We just got a big win, right? Whatever you're trying to do on the career site to leverage some market condition, right, to your advantage, it's got to be timely, right? And so what's happened with 2.0, guys, is that all of the configuration tools are now available to your client administrators, right? A large part of any of our implementations at GP, but it can, is knowledge transfer, right? We want to make sure that it is, something where when we walk away, when we draw from the sunset, like I said, we provide long-term support and optimization, but we want to make darn well sure that, anything that we can do, our clients know how to do, it, maybe even just with a little bit of our support, all right, and oftentimes without any. So they can agilely make the change based upon the data. Look, all right, and the last one, I'm going through and getting my Qualtrics certifications now. I wanted to be, certified, and hopefully they have Deltas too, so I can take some more Delta exams. So I wouldn't be doing it, guys, if I didn't really love Qualtrics and what I see there. And for anybody that's not familiar with Qualtrics, and I will say this because it has to be legal because the Qualtrics people said this, it's like SurveyMonkey on steroids, okay? It allows you to get feedback on all or any aspects of any portion of your technical tools or any experience that you have. So that just seems like a big thing to say. So like what? Like, what was it like when you had to complete your initial application? What was onboarding like, right? What was onboarding like when you were coming into the company from the outside? What was onboarding like when you came to the company, from the inside and changed groups? What about as an executive? What about as an external worker? What about as a remote worker? What about as a technical worker? Whatever you want to slice and dice, you can use this survey tool to first ask questions and get data points, all right? And it's really cool, but it's SurveyMonkey, but then on steroids. On the back end, the analysis that is available, bringing in data from other aspects of your organization regarding what then happened to the employees, how did they do on their first review, right? What was their first performance rating? When did they leave? Why did they leave? Were they asked to leave? Why, right? And you also, they have a huge library, right, of predictive content, meaning from all the data we've seen, amalgamated, washed, what have you, right, and all the, the names are protected, this is typically what happens when you do this, right? Not all the time, but if you're seeing this, right, and you're doing it that way, what we would suggest is maybe trying it this way, and this is typically what we see happen. And you can take those suggestions and you can measure them immediately. They were right, they were wrong, they were kind of right. What if we do this as a little bit of our spin on it? Oh, look, now it's going in the right direction. But this is the ongoing change the setting, take a reading, right? Change the setting, take a reading, right? If you were just kind of changing and, sticking your finger in the air, Lord knows you may be moving further away. You just don't know. right? It's almost impossible to play, what is it, hot and cold, or, or warm or hot, or whatever it is, when you don't have anybody giving you any feedback. You're just walking around the room and nobody's saying hotter or colder. How do you know? How do you know if anything you're doing is being effective? This is where a lot of companies are when it comes to onboarding. And like I said, right, the predictive content, I mean, it's cool. It's like a matrix that you'd see, right? If they answered this way on a question, or about how engaged they felt on the way in, or whether or not their experience was positive or negative, or whatever it was. Look, they tend to just not stay as long. They tend not to just do as well, or they maybe do, or whatever. Or it seems really critical only when they're remote. So let's put our kind of resources behind that, right? But I think all of us can understand that unless you can measure it, you can't, and do that in an ongoing feedback loop, right? Where again, change a setting, take a reading. Did the temperature go up or down? Did we go faster or slower? Right? Where did we make more money or less, or whatever it was? Right? What's going on here? You really can, and that's not just HR data, guys. Things like profitability. It's whatever you want to bring in there. So again, the big message here, guys, I think everybody understands the importance of reporting. I don't want to preach, but the tool itself, and not only are its reporting capabilities greater, but really, again, guys, it now enjoys the entire suite's reporting capabilities, and that's the focus here, guys. The integrated solution is the key, right? Data starts in one place, EC, SAP, some other master data system. It starts there. It flows through the modules. It is added to along the way, but anytime it's added to, unless it needs to be updated later in the process, it's then stored and passed along to the next process point. So what's picked up in recruiting, right, that started from EC or SAP, is moved through onboarding. What's picked up in onboarding, right, is moved back through, right, to manage the vacant position, and everything starts and ends with that vacancy, right? And we minimize the data, swirl. We make sure that all the data has to be in the proper format for the back end up front. We work backwards, right? So, I think one thing I wanted to talk about quickly before we get to Q&A is, I promise you guys, I'm not jumping out of the cake now with my sales guy clothes on. Again, you hear my communication style. I'm not good enough to be a sales guy. How much do you want us? That's for sure. At least about this stuff. But a lot of people show up to these things. I have a lot of people ask me, or say to me when we finally do engage, you know what, John, the reason that we're doing this now instead of a year ago is we just didn't know where to go. We didn't know where to start. We knew we needed to address this. We knew there are different things out there. But what we didn't understand, John, is the process, right? We can evaluate, solutions, software, but what should we be thinking about here, right? What should we be doing here? And so one of the things that we offer, guys, is this 2.0 gap analysis for people with an onboarding solution. Right now, everybody has one, right? Whether you're coming from a technical solution, a piece of software, or paper and pen, or a blend, or a couple of different ones, whatever, or you're coming from 1.0, right? What we've been offering are these 2 half-day workshops with somebody that's certified from the group here, and they're going to kind of take you through what I did today, which is that 2.0 roadmap. So not just we've got a great blog article out there that I collaborated on earlier this month about 1.0 to 2.0. Right, and kind of what you see there. There's a lot of good content out there right now, good feature comparison out there by SAP SuccessFactors themselves on that. But what we want to talk about is what we see in the crystal ball, what we're hearing, right, through our partner channel from SuccessFactors SAP on where is this heading, all right, and what does that mean for you, all right, based upon where you are. So if you look down, guys, right, where are you? I just did a huge project back last spring. For a big natural materials company, a big international company, and we put together a 5-year technical roadmap for them, right? Some SuccessFactors, some SAP, some completely off that radar, but they're trying to figure out, here's where we are, here's where we need to go, here's probably what we're going to do along the way to get there, what do we need to do, and what are the priorities, what's the proper order? Oh yeah, that's right, we want to install those cabinets before we paint them, or maybe we need to paint them first. Right, because once they're installed, you can't really do it right, whatever it is, right? My analogies, my non-technical analogies. But it's the same thing here, guys. So we try to help you prioritize, right? We try to help you get the most bang for your buck. Almost every sponsor that I've ever talked to when starting a project says, John, it'd be great if we can get some good early wins. right? The people that sign the check see some good early wins. We all like early wins, better than early losses, I guess. But that's one of the things that we try to help you do. Get as much immediate return on your investment as you possibly can, but also limit rework, right? Provide that kind of comprehensive approach where we're not painting you into any corners or helping you not to. And then giving you, right, an actionable plan, right? If we were you, based on what you told us you want to do in this time frame for these reasons, here's what we would do, coming from where you're coming from. And that's what you get. It's not here's the configuration guide for how it's going to be set up. No, this is what I would do, right? I'd maybe look to install this module first. Here are the key issues involved with that. I'd look to integrate it with this. Those are good prerequisites to that, whatever it is. The other thing is that 2.0 is evolving. There are some requirements in 2.0 that are yet to be satisfied, some compliance requirements for certain countries. Now, we can work around all these things, right? But as depending upon what your needs are, and also depending upon whether you're an EC client or not, right, there are some considerations there as well. So we just try to help, demystify the process and put you in a better place to make what I call an educated decision. If anybody's interested about even chit-chatting about a session like that, feel free to contact me directly, and you'll have my contact information, and I can at least forward it to the right individual if I am not. But if I have questions or I can help you position it, hopefully I can make that process a little bit more streamlined for you. So that is sort of where we get to in the Q&A. I want to thank you for your time. I know it's a long time on the Polycom or the headset to listen to me. Hopefully more of you are used to it now than you used to be with where we find ourselves. But I want to make sure that I leave almost 10 minutes for Q&A. So Kayla, go ahead.
Yes. Thanks, John, for that important discussion, and you're engaging as always. So the last 50 minutes flew by. We have a few minutes left, so just as a reminder, if you do have a question for John, be sure to enter it into the Q&A module or go ahead and use the chat panel. Either one is just fine. There were a few that came in, but go ahead and enter any questions you have now. Obviously, he covered a lot in the last 50 minutes or so, and there's a lot that we could still discuss. So I encourage you to continue the conversation with John beyond today's session. His contact information is available in the slide deck. Actually, John, if you go ahead and flip it to that last slide, that way folks can see your email there. Perfect. We'll just go ahead and leave that up for the remainder of the session. I'd also like to remind you that the recording and slides from today will be emailed to you using the email address you provided when you registered. So it looks like we have a few questions that came in. We'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A. John, what do you think are the most important issues to consider when evaluating onboarding processes and solutions?
Well, that's a good one. I like the comprehensive question. I think really, if I look across all of the gigs that I've done, which are more than I care to remember probably, it is starting at a certain level. This is a great opportunity, guys. What you see a lot in onboarding is it's a lot of, and you guys could probably identify, right? It's a lot of tribal knowledge. Oh, we have to go get Melissa. She's the only one that knows how that's done. Or, well, it works that way for everybody, but the people that do this, and that way we have to turn around 3 times backwards and speak the magic words, whatever it is, right? And it's not well documented. And also it can become, for these larger companies, I work with a lot of multinationals across their entire global footprint. They're like, well, there's an India process, there's a UK process, there's a process in Germany because they have the work council, there's the one for the plant in Malaysia, and then the other plant has a different one. Well, those differences may be there, but I think that one of the best, the way to address that first question is look at what the global template is first. And where the global onboarding template comes from, guys, is the back end. This is the classic thing, all right? Everything upstream of the back end, all right, must bow down, whether that be EC or whether that be SAP on-prem or some hybrid or some other third, party, master data system, right? PeopleSoft, what have you. They hold the keys to the kingdom. I have never had an SAP person tell me, oh, sure, John, I'll change my field, right? I can just change the way payroll runs. I'll change that integration. No way, right? They're all stoked that at whatever point in their career, they got that thing working right. And their entire existence is focused on making sure that it continues to work right. And that means don't jostle anything, right? Be real careful around this thing. So I need to bow down to it. And that makes sense. They have the rules, right? They know what makes everything go. So, okay, well, when we get one of those people, they need to have this form, and that's just how this dynamic action works in SAP, or this is the event reason I need in EC, and so this is why I need the field, and I need it in this way. right? So when you do that, right, that's when you're able to basically work backwards and make sure that when you collect the information, you collect it all the time, right? That everything is required is always collected, right? Upstream, it's collected in the proper format, right? At the proper process point. If it needs to be updated later, that availability is there. What does that equate to, guys? You're not chasing people for data. You don't have incomplete records. People can start on time. People can go to training on time. People can run the equipment that they're certified to run, right? Again, selfishly, myopically, right, it gets these employees, it gets you a return on your employment investment faster. And from a technical starting point place, the thing to consider, that lets you then realize what the scope of effort is, right, what the amount of change is going to be to the organization, and help you start, if needed, phasing that out to take bites. Sometimes that exercise leaves you realizing, wow, that is going to be such a radical change for so many people that while we want to do it, we not only from a technical investment standpoint and a resource investment, but from a change management investment, this is how long we're going to have to manage this out, right? So that can be a good first place to start.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next question goes back to slide 5. You can feel free to flip back there if you decide to. But can the custom onboarding process for the external workforce be seen as a potential co-employment issue? They have a supplier that manages their external workforce and provides onboarding, so they minimize the potential. They want to minimize the potential of co-employment confusion.
Understand, and that is a real issue. I've dealt with it a number of customers where that is a big part of their model. Obviously, first of all, understanding and alignment between the two organizations, the one supplying the talent, right, and potentially who's paying the talent, and the one who the talent is working for. I think that there's an onboarding piece for both, right? I think there really is. I've seen a lot of people jumping to the answer, well, that's all going to be for the gig worker supplier. I don't agree. And I don't know that you would want that just as your standard. I mean, you don't know all that much about how they onboard their people, and you know what you want to know. And also there's aspects of onboarding that are more opening access up and all these sort of things. But I understand the co-employment concern. I've talked through it. First of all is good alignment so that both companies realize, kind of that there's no balls that are going to drop between center and right field, right? We know who's doing what. And I think the other thing is wherever possible, this is amazing. You've got to communicate effectively with the worker about what is and isn't being represented here. And if there's any possibility for integration between the two processes, I think that's great, right? I think there needs to be a clear delineation, right, between you being onboarded as an employee at the paying company versus you being onboarding as a gigging worker for us. And I'm not an employment lawyer, nor do I play one on TV, but I know that they've been heavily involved in my projects and messaging, and making sure that that's said, and also what we're asking and what we're doing, right? Again, this points to 2.0's ability to much more easily and elegantly support these divergent processes. If we're only left with, well, we're going to put them through the normal process, but we know not to process this, that, and that. Well, when I'm filling out my W-4 for the second time, right, I'm confused, right? When I'm choosing beneficiaries the second time, I'm confused. What, do these guys give me benefits? Do these guys pay me too? Who pays me? Right? And maybe I've got to, whoever knows what goes on. Again, I don't want to get into legal issues, but I understand the general swath of issues that we're talking about. But I think that, again, it's good communication, and it's being able to say, well, all we need for you is this, because we got to get you a uniform, and that, because we have to get you the laptop, and this, right, to hook you up with the project team leader that you're going to be working on, right? Instead of, well, here's the normal flow, but just ignore all these parts because those are for full-time employees. That's hopefully that addresses your question. If it doesn't, follow up either now or ongoing, and I can take another step.
Sounds good. Well, we're at the end of the hour. We have one more question. I'll go ahead and ask it, but for those of you who do have to drop off, I appreciate your time. So this person says, my assumption is that the audiences who will interact with Onboarding 2.0 include HR recruiters, hiring managers, new hires, and applicants. Is this correct? Of course, it's also different based on the roles.
Yes, exactly right. So if you think about the roles that are available, like sort of in the requisition, those are available. But the really great thing about onboarding is, remember now, right, unlike in 1.0, which is just the bane of my existence, where I have a whole separate set of permissions and I have to kind of sync users and all this, we're using role-based permissions now. It's part of the platform. So really is, there are the hard named roles, hiring managers, but as many roles as I need to allow some sort of access. If there's a coordinator, a part-time coordinator, just a travel coordinator for interviews. Maybe they just need a fraction of the functionality exposed to them. We can now get between those lines. So we have both levels. So yes, that's the circle that I would draw around the major users. But if your organization needs full or partial participation in the process and therefore access to some aspect of the solution between those lines, we can now do that much more effectively than we could in the existing model. So, Kayla, I echo your sentiments. Thank you so much, everybody, for the time, for the questions you posed, and anything that we can do on the back end of this in terms of follow-up, we'd certainly be excited to do for. Thank you so much for your attention. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you again, everyone, for your time and attention today. We hope that you'll join us again for our future webinars. Registration is available on our webinar page at gpstrategies.com. Have a great day, everyone.
This webinar is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can access more webinars or download additional resources at gpstrategies.com/resources-library.